Hi, my name is Ikisha, and I'll be talking about The Ode to My Father, which is a 2014 South Korean film directed by Yoon Jae-kyun, the, and it is one of Korea's highest-grossing films. I will first introduce the director of the film along with the cast, and then provide a short summary of the film. And as I provide the summary of the film, there will be slides to accompany the various key elements of the movie. And after the summary, we'll be talking a little bit about the historical context of each parts of the movie, since there are a lot of major historical events covered. And we will end this presentation with talking about the themes and other interesting things about the film. So let's introduce the cast of the film. The director, the film is directed by Yoon Jae-kyun. The movie stars Hwang Jung-min as Yoon Dik-soo, Yeon Jim-kim as Young-ja, Oh Do-soo as Dalgo, Jung Jin-young as Dik-soo's father, Jang Young-nam as Dik-soo's mother, Ra Mi-ron as Dik-soo's paternal aunt, and Kim So-gi as Kitsun. I apologize for any pronunciation errors I had while pronouncing the names. So now I'll provide a short summary of the film. The movie depicts the life of Dik-soo and all the challenges that he's faced while providing for his family. He was transported to South Korea with his mother and two younger siblings during the Hangnam evacuation, after which he had to take up the role of a breadwinner of the family. This is one of the most iconic scenes of the film where Dik-soo and his family is separated from Dik-soo's father and his little sister. His father stayed back to search for Dik-soo's sister, who got lost during the Hangnam evacuation. During this time, he took up a job in Germany as a coal miner, um, where met his soon-to-be wife, Young Ja. He then ends up going to war-torn Vietnam to save his uncle's goods store since he wanted to sell it. He was very adamant about saving the goods store, so he went all the way to war-torn Vietnam. He was able to buy out the store, and later he was also reunited with his sister through a broadcast. The movie ends with him coming to terms with the fact that he might never be reunited with his father, and then sells the goods store. Now let's get into some of the historical context of the film, one of which is the Hangnam evacuation, which was depicted in the beginning of the film. The Hangnam evacuation was one of the largest wartime evacuations affecting the lives of almost a million Koreans. During the Korean War, the United Nations were not only repelling North Korea's invasion of South Korea, but also were trying to capture all of North Korea during this process. This is when the Chinese armies intervened and launched a massive counterattack that resulted in the UN forces to retract their troops. As you can see, this was also depicted in the film. During this time, thousands of North Koreans were following the UN forces as they were retracting their troops. Around 100,000 civilians were transported to safety parts, to multiple parts of South Korea to safety. Ode to My Father begins with the depiction of the Hangnam evacuation, and this is where Dik-soo's father and the rest of his family get separated. After Dik-soo and his family arrived at Busan, they had no money, and in order to provide for his family, Dik-soo goes to Germany to work as a coal miner. Here he meets his future wife, Young-ja. Let us take a look at why people like Dik-soo had to look for jobs in other countries. This is one of the famous times where the government of South Korea was dispatching a lot of miners and nurses to Germany. The situation in Korea, the economy of Korea was pretty bad. And Korea was a very poor country in the early 1960s, which was decades after the colonial rule and the Korean War. They heavily relied on foreign aid to sustain their economy. The situation in Korea was so bad that opportunities in industrialized countries like Germany looked like an opportunity of a lifetime. However, the working conditions in Germany were very dangerous. a lot of Koreans died during in the German mines because of the rudimentary working conditions. The Korean miners' and nurses' painful labor was not only a very important part of Germany's modern history, but they were also helping Korea rebuild its economy by sending money back home. Duk-soo as well sent money back home to fund his brother's tuition. We see a glimpse of the minor struggle when Duk-soo goes to Germany and some of his colleagues succumb to accidents in the mine. As you can see in the slide, this is when there was a collapse of the tunnel that where Duk-soo was working at, and he had an accident there. Shortly after which his visa expired and he went back to Korea. A few months later, Young Ja, a nurse he met in Germany, went back to Korea to tell him that she was pregnant with their child. They had a simple wedding and started a life together with two lovely sons. Soon after Duk-soo's marriage, he goes to war-ridden Vietnam. He goes to Vietnam to make enough money to buy out his aunt's shop because of a memory he has over there with his father, to, and also with hopes that um, later, when he grows old, he and all of his family members can reunite there. At that time, Korea was under the administration of Park Chung-hee, and over 350,000 South Korean troops were being sent to Vietnam as an ally of the United States. Many individuals ended up going to Vietnam because Korea's economy was extremely vulnerable. They were being paid almost $38 an hour to serve in Vietnam, while they would have made $2 an hour in Korea. They went to Vietnam out of sheer desperation for their families to survive back home in Korea. When Dexter goes to Vietnam, he helps a lot of people escape in the war and loses his leg in that process. The film later shows Dexter being reunited with his sister through a broadcast. Hundreds of thousands of families were separated during the Hungnam evacuation, and the broadcast was trying to reunite these families. Finding Dispersed Families was a special live broadcast created and aired by the Korean Broadcasting System from June to November and reunited over 10,000 families. The movie um, shows Dixu reuniting with his sister through this broadcast, and as you can see, this is the image of actual people reuniting with their families because of the broadcast. This broadcasting system also aired for over 730 hours. The movie ends with the family reuniting at the store and Dixu deciding to sell the store, since that would fulfill his father's last wishes. He tears up at the end as he recalls his father while performing his mother's ancestral rites and realizing that his father might be too old to return. Now that we have covered the historical context of the film, let's talk a little bit about the film and some themes that we see. The director of this film used his own parents' name in the film and made it as a tribute to his own father, as depicted by the name. And this shows how Dixu embodied the lives our grandparents lived. The characters in the film are fictional. However, the director does an incredible job of portraying the struggles of Korea that spanned over three generations through Dixu and his family. Dixu highlights the innate selflessness and family orientedness that can be seen throughout the individuals in his generation. Dixu's life, along with his family, envelops memories of millions of Koreans that were going through similar struggles to fend for their families. Some of the themes that we see are sacrifice, suffering, love, resilience throughout this film. There's a quote in this film that really resonated with me and embodies a lot of these people's mindset during that time. And I'll show you the quote. Still, I'm thankful that these struggles have been suffered not by our children, but by you and me. This was said by Daksu to his wife through a letter in Germany. And this sentiment was shared by their generation, who in many ways gave up their lives to ensure a future for their kids. This sentiment was a pillar of what Korean economy stands on, since all the unsung heroes and freedom fighters embodied this very sentiment, along with Daksu and individuals of his generation, whose hard work, resilience, and selflessness made Korea what it is today. This is truly a wonderful film to watch. Thank you.